Here.
And Member Schuessler's here. Would you all stand and join us in pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a pretty good size audience here, so let me tell you what the process is here, how it's going to go. And bear with me because I normally don't run these meetings. I'm the vice chairman, and the chairman is not available tonight, so we'll get through it. First of all, a couple of things. Plan Commission's job is a recommending body with a few minor exceptions. Most of the time, we conduct public hearing, and then we make a recommendation to the village board. In a very few minor instances, we can give final approval for certain things like variances. And Member Nugent just walked in for the minutes because this is being recorded. If, when we're all said and done on any particular item that you're here for, you don't like what we are recommending to the village board, you have the right to go to the village board meeting, at which time this matter would be discussed, and make additional comments or ask questions of the village board. The village board, as you know, consists of 6 trustees and the mayor who are elected, and they have the final say. All comments tonight should be addressed to the Plan Commission and not to the staff. Please don't repeat something that some prior speaker says. If you'd like to get up and say, I agree with what somebody said, that's fine. But after we listen to somebody for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes say the same thing that you would say, it's kind of repetitive and it makes the meeting go longer and everybody gets kind of antsy. After everyone has had a chance to comment or ask questions, well, the first thing that's going to happen is the staff is going to make a presentation. After that's done, we'll open it up to the audience to ask questions or make comments. When that happens, do we have a list of people? No, okay.
There is a sign-in sheet.
Is there?
Over there? Yeah.
You have the sign-in sheet? Okay, why don't you bring that up to me, and then I can call people. When your name is called, come up to the podium, give your name and address, and then you can ask any questions or make any comments. And please, no back and forth debating with anybody on the commission or with the staff. I'll take, if there are any questions, I'll write those questions down. After we've heard all the questions, then I'll ask the staff to respond to each question individually. Okay, so that's the process we're going to follow. Before you address the board, you have to be sworn in. The attorney will swear you in. If there's anybody here that thinks they might want to say something tonight, please, when it comes time to be sworn in, raise your right hand and take the oath. If you don't speak, that's fine. If you don't want any questions, that's fine. But later on, it will avoid having to say, well, you sworn in to each person that comes up. So at this time, is there anybody that thinks they might want, that wants to say something to the commission or wants to ask questions or might want to do that? If so, please rise and raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you present tonight in the matter that you're before the Plan Commission will be the truth and nothing but the truth? And so please say, I do. Thank you.
My golly, I thought we were going to have 15 people raise their hand. Well, you can change your mind. If you change your mind, just indicate to me you'd like to give everybody a last chance and just indicate that you changed your mind, you want to say something. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes for Tuesday, April 1st, 2025.
Second.
moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Okay, then the next item is a really easy one. We have item 2024-0892, Public Works Optimization Project. It's really a Public Works remodeling project, I think, or renovation project. And there is a request that that be continued to the June 3rd, 2025 meeting. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to do that.
Chairman, I move that we continue that till the, what was the date on that?
June 3rd.
Second.
June
June
2nd?
2nd meeting.
I said I'll second.
Oh, okay, moved and seconded to continue the Public Works project to June 2nd, 2025.
It's June 3rd.
I'm sorry,
June 3rd.
I'll third it.
got our 2s and 3s mixed up there. Okay, we should, because that's a public hearing, we should probably have a roll call on that. Commissioner Nugent? Aye. Commissioner Paul?
Aye.
Commissioner Zatar? Aye. Commissioner Zamparelli?
Aye.
Okay, so then we need a motion to close that public hearing. Is there a motion to close the,
So moved.
Second.
moved and seconded? Commissioner Nugent? Aye. Commissioner Paul?
Aye.
Commissioner Zatar? Commissioner Zamparelli?
Aye.
Okay, now we need a motion to open the public hearing on item 2025-0187, Godowskis Residence Variance for a single-family home. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move that we open public hearing for Godowskis Residence Variance 2025-1087.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Paul?
Aye.
Commissioner Zamparelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Nugent? Aye. Commissioner Zatar? Okay, staff? Ms. Gorman?
The petitioner is here today and has a presentation prepared for us.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Heather Glockler with Castle Law. I'm representing the petitioners today. I just have a very short presentation for you guys. I thank you for your time tonight.
I think your microphone isn't working.
I think I just need to speak louder.
Yeah, right into it.
Okay, perfect. So also with
That's
me,
better.
there you go. Also with me here tonight are the petitioners as well as our contractor. And I just want to thank staff. They did an awesome job on the presentation. Next slide. So Marie and Tony have called 14725 Holly Court home for more than 28 years. Their amazing neighbors make this a great area to live and raise a family. Many of Marie and Tony's neighbors sent in letter of support for the two variances, and many of them are here tonight. Staff recommends approval of the side yard setback variance, and we would request your approval of the same. However, staff does recommend denial of the brick requirement variance. We're respectfully disagreeing with this recommendation for several reasons. The issue that caused the variance request tonight were not self-created. There would be no negative impact to the neighborhood or home values. It would maintain neighborhood aesthetic. It would also return the home to its original condition. And since Orland Park is a home rule municipality, it is not required to follow the hardship requirements of its ordinance. The village states that finances can't be a hardship. However, this is really only the case when a buyer was fully aware of the zoning regulations and purchased the property anyway. In this case, the home had been grandfathered in and a fire resulted in the need to comply. The financial burden represents a practical difficulty that was not self-created. Next slide. This is the residence prior to the fire, and The green highlighted here is just where the brick, where we are proposing the brick be placed to return the new build exactly as it was. Next slide. On February 20th of 2024, at approximately 3 a.m., Marie and Tony lost everything. These are some of the pictures that we pulled from the patch. It was truly devastating. Next slide. The essential characteristics of the neighborhood are very similar to what Marie and Tony's house looked like prior. You'll see here that the houses all contain that brick on the front elevation. Next slide. This is just another slide of similar houses in that same neighborhood. Next slide. And again, another slide with those houses, again, showing the same exact design features. Next slide. The proposed variance would have no negative impact on the surrounding properties. It would not create undesirable changes to the characteristics of the neighborhood, and it would maintain the same or similar aesthetics. It is consistent with the original home and neighborhood, and as mentioned previously, many letters of support have been provided, and the variance would be in the best interest for maintaining the characteristic of the community. Next slide. Complying with the village's requirements does create a practical difficulty and an unnecessary hardship, not merely a financial hardship. It would drastically increase construction cost if we were to comply with the brick variance, and this is upwards of $37,000 pending reevaluation of cost for the materials and labor at this point. The financial burden does stem from an evolution of ordinances. If we were to follow the strict compliance of the ordinance, it does constitute a practical difficulty that has not been self-created. And when compliance leads to extraordinary costs in comparison to the benefit gain, costs may rise to the level of practical difficulty. Last slide. As such, we are requesting that you approve both variances tonight in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have two people who live at the same address. Maybe one of you can speak for both. I don't know if you're going to flip a coin or not. Lori and Craig Mandenberg?
Oh, we have a staff report first.
Oh, okay. You want to
Staff
add?
presentation? Yes.
Oh,
I
she
will
did
add.
such a good job. I'm not sure you have anything to add.
Only a couple of
Give it a
things.
shot.
Thank you. I would like to begin by respectfully requesting that the staff report be accepted into the record as written and as presented during this meeting. The petitioner today is seeking approval of two variances from the Land Development Code in order to rebuild a single-family home that was damaged by a fire and subsequently demolished in 2024. The subject property is located at 14725 Holly Court. It is zoned R3A residential and falls within the Orland Grove Planning District with a land designation of single-family residential. Here we can see the petitioner is seeking approval of two variances. The first variance request is to reduce the minimum required side yard setback from 8 feet to 6.7 feet. And the second request is to eliminate the requirement to have face brick or stone on not less than 50% of exterior walls and 90% of each first floor elevation for a residential dwelling unit. This slide shows an image of the Orland Grove Planning District from the comprehensive plan, and the subject property is indicated by the star. The property is completely surrounded by single-family residential uses. Here is an image of the zoning map, again, just showing that the property is surrounded by totally single-family residential uses. Here is a recent aerial image of the property. As the petitioner mentioned, the single-family home here was originally constructed in 1968. It was a little over 1,000 square foot raised ranch-style home and was considered legal non-conforming to the Land Development Code because it did not meet the current code requirements regarding setbacks and design standards. As they mentioned, in February 2024, the house was significantly damaged by a fire and then had to be demolished later that year as a result. To provide a bit of background about the situation, the Development Services Department received a demolition permit application to demolish the house, the foundation, and the driveway in July of 2024, and the permit was then issued in August. After the house was demolished, staff was then contacted by the contractor, stating that the property owners desired to keep their existing foundation and driveway instead of demolishing them. The foundation was deemed to be in suitable condition by their engineer. Staff reviewed the plans to keep the existing foundation, and it was then determined that the foundation cannot be used to construct a new single-family home because it did not meet the current minimum side yard setback requirements for the side along the south property line. Although the structure was legal non-conforming, the structure can now only be repaired or restored if it conforms to the standards of the current regulations for the zoning district in which it is located, R3A, because the house had already been demolished and damaged more than 50% of its assessed value. So now, in order for the property owners to rebuild the home exactly as it was on the existing foundation, they need 2 variances from the Land Development Code. And we're going to go through each request in detail now. So the first request, as I mentioned, is to reduce the side yard setback requirement from 8 feet to 6.7 feet. So the side yard setback requirement for the R3A district is 10% of the lot width or 8% or 8 feet, whichever is greater. So with a lot width of approximately 62 feet per their plat of survey shown here, they meet the 10% requirement, but not the minimum of 8 feet. Therefore, the setback is deficient by about 1.3 feet or 16%, so a variance is required. The petitioner has also provided aerial images indicating the potential setbacks of other homes in the neighborhood. That's within the Plan Commission packet that was provided online as part of the public record as well. Staff is unable to verify whether or not other structures meet the current setback requirements. However, staff was able to locate a plat of survey for a couple of the other homes in the neighborhood, most of which did not meet the side yard setback requirement and are consistent with this home where they're deficient in about 2 feet. So it seems like it is consistent in this neighborhood that they're all offset a couple of feet and they don't meet our current code requirements. So with this in mind, staff is in support of this variance request and is recommending that the Plan Commission approve this variance request. I also want to mention that in the code, the Plan Commission is authorized to grant a variance to permit any setback less than the setback required by the applicable regulations, but not by more than 25%. Therefore, the Plan Commission is authorized to grant this variance request outright. And if you decide to approve or deny the request tonight, it would not need to advance to the Board of Trustees for final approval. So you guys have the final authority to grant this variance. And then here's just another image of the plat of survey, just showing the south side yard, 6.7 feet, that is deficient in our current requirements. So the petitioner provided photos of their home prior to the fire. So this photo is just from Google Street View from 2012, and we can see the original design of the home. Here is the proposed design of the home that was provided in their architectural plans, and you can see that they want to rebuild it exactly as it was before. But this moves on to our second variance request that's required. So the Land Development Code requires that face brick or stone be utilized on not less than 50% of exterior walls and 90% of each first floor elevation for a residential dwelling unit. And they're only proposing to meet that requirement on the front elevation or the west elevation as shown here. Therefore, in order to meet our code requirements, they'd have to have that face brick or stone on all elevations for the structure. Therefore, in order for them to use their proposed design, a variance from the design standards is required. And then, as consistent with any variance request, the petitioner did respond to our variance standards, which moves on to staff's recommendation tonight. So staff is recommending denial of the second variance request, as the reasoning for variance cannot be due to financial reasons. So finally, for the staff recommended action regarding case number 2025-0187, also known as the Gadauskas residence variances, Staff recommends to accept and make findings of fact as discussed at this Plan Commission meeting and within the staff report dated April 11, 2025. And staff recommends the Plan Commission approve a variance from Section 6-2045E2 of the Land Development Code to reduce the minimum required side yard setback from 8 feet to 6.7 feet. And staff recommends the Plan Commission deny a variance from Section 6-308F5 of the Land Development Code to eliminate the requirement to have face brick or stone on not less than 50% of exterior walls and 90% of each first floor elevation for residential dwelling unit. And this concludes the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Corman. We received 8 letters, and 2 of the people who wrote letters are here tonight. So would either Lori or both Lori and Craig Mandenberg wish to address the board? Okay. Also, Roy Cruz wrote a letter. Is he here tonight? Come on up, Roy. Okay. So the 8 letters have been made a part of the board. I want to say not the agenda, the board. The record, yeah. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board with regard to this matter? Okay. Let's go to the board members. Commissioner Zamparelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I hope everybody got out all right, out of the house. Everybody safe, I hope? And, good. Yours? Oh, did you? Holly Court's a beautiful street. I've had a few homes on Holly Court, so love it. Glad you guys are okay. As for the variance, it's kind of a no-brainer to me. On the first one, the lot size, most of those lots are very narrow. I own 14700 right on the end, so great street. However, the brick, I have to say, I'm reminded of a fire in 1996 in Fairway. House burned to the ground, and the code back then was the same. Any home, this is Fairway, they weren't brick back then, but the code made them, the whole first floor had to be brick. And it looks great, and that's the rule. I can't disagree with the staff's recommendation on it. Sorry, but I definitely agree with using what you got, the foundation there, and working what you have and letting that 1 foot 3 inches variance go. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Nugent.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Godowskis get their house back up right away. We probably should do more protection. We did make zoning changes here and south of here, Orland Hills of Orland Park, about 10 years ago, so that we would not have the tear-down effect that similar post-50s, 60s neighborhoods and communities like Oak Lawn experienced. So the village had the foresight to protect it. And the opposite end of the spectrum in Old Orland, trying to protect the old area, we now allow almost every house to get torn down and none of them get back brick because we gave them special zoning. So we need to recognize that 6 of our first 7 neighborhoods were built with almost no brick. And that's Fairway, Fernway, Villa d'Este, both El Caminos, and
Orland Hills.
Orland Hills of Orland Park, and of course, the downtown village. The house would 100% comply. Actually, when I first saw it, I figured you're gonna try and over-improve, which you're not. So I'm totally in favor of protecting the idea that it matches every house on the block. And the thing we really have to worry about is setting a precedent. It's not gonna be a precedent. I mean, Orland Hills little ranches now, just south of them, you can't even buy them under $225. No one's gonna buy one of those and tear it down. So we're not setting a precedent that's going to be repeated anywhere in the village, so I'm in support of both variances with no issues.
Okay. You two will get a chance in just a minute. What the staff passed out before the meeting, if you haven't found it yet, is there's a little sheet that says motion options. And option number 1 would be what Commissioner Zamparelli recommended, which would be the staff proposal to give them a variance on the setback, but to deny the variance for the brick requirement. And then there's two other options, but those are probably, I mean, one would be to deny everything, which nobody's mentioned so far. And I forget what the fourth one is, but it's not important. So let's hear from our other commissioners. Commissioner Zatar?
For a minute there, I was excited to go last. So, new face on the staff, I guess. Welcome, I think, unless I'm just dated. I'm kind of blown away by your response, Pat. I didn't see that coming. I thought this was a no-brainer, and I'm kind of disappointed the resident had to go through this trauma and then get a lawyer. Like, I'm kind of on the side of the 8 people who wrote letters. I think I know what they wrote. I didn't read them. Maybe just one clarification question from the staff or the lawyer or friend. The old design did not have brick all around? Is that right? The new design is exactly as the old design?
That is correct. So the old design just had the front facing brick
Okay.
and not wrapped all the way
And
around.
the neighbors' houses don't have brick all around at the bottom floor?
That is correct.
Like, to me, this is a no-brainer. I mean, I don't understand why we're recommending a denial and causing this resident to get a lawyer, which they probably now had to incur expense. I think our team here that I've been on the board with now for almost 8 years, has been very fair in talking about things openly and makes a decision fairly. So, it kind of seems like we caused an unprecedented group to join our meeting today. We usually have like 1 or 2 guests for a topic that seems kind of common sense to me. So I'm in favor of approving everything they asked for. I think we have to sometimes consider what's out on the street and not always be so focused on the rule book. So, all right, that's all I have.
Okay, in defense of the staff, let me say that they were kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. The ordinance is what the ordinance says, and they felt that they had to follow the ordinance. But this board has the authority to grant such a variance. That's only their recommendation, as it always is. And as you all know, sometimes we accept their recommendations and sometimes we don't. So it's only a recommendation of the staff on a technical basis because of the way the ordinance was worded, and they really didn't have anything to hang their hat on to say grant the variance. So, Commissioner Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a couple questions and comments. Yeah, there's a rule, but the fact that we're here talking about it means there's some wiggle room. Okay, I mean, if you wanted to build a 6-story building in that spot, you'd have been shut down day one. We wouldn't be having this conversation. So the fact that we're here means that we've got some flexibility. So it's a rule, but we can work around that rule if we need to. So I guess my first question is, why do we have that rule?
It's just in our non-conforming code section, so when legal non-conforming structures are damaged or demolished beyond a certain point, the intent of the code is then, when they're reconstructed, for them to meet our current code requirements.
Okay, because I'm looking at it saying, okay, if the purpose of that is aesthetics, well, most of those houses don't have brick on the side. So this isn't something that's gonna stand out and people are gonna drive by thinking like, where's the brick? Everybody else has it. In fact, most of them don't. If it's a structural reason or a safety reason, well, that's different. It's just like you're gonna rebuild this house, but you're not gonna rebuild it with 1960s electrical code, okay? Now, this is all gonna be new. Whatever that cost is what you're gonna have to pay, but it's all gonna be new. So if that's the reason, that's kind of a different reason. That would be a different direction to go with this. The attorney, I'm sorry, your name? Ms. Glockner. You said that, you pointed out case, I'm not a lawyer, so when you point out case study, I'm looking at this saying, okay, you say so. We have a lawyer here. So, like, what is it?
So I do have the case law in case Ms. Grodak would like to read it. But for the, and I'm just going back to my notes briefly here, as soon as I can find the page. You were referring to, I believe, the Goslin and Asback zoning. So the village, the way that the ordinance is written, or the codes are written, state that financial hardships can't be the only hardship. However, per those cases, this only really applies when a buyer purchases a house knowing what those zoning ordinances are. And this isn't the case here. Obviously, they lived there for 28 plus years. And then for the other one, Dunlap, since Orland Park is a home rule municipality, they are not required to follow the hardship requirements. So you guys can vary based on those case laws. I have them with, just in case that came up, but that's the short of it.
Does that sound right to you?
Well, I mean, I agree with the general. I agree with the general proposition that Orland is a home rule community and can derogate from its code. The board has the legislative power to derogate from its code if it wants to. So the board, you could recommend the granting of this variance and the board could grant this variance. So I'm in agreement that there's nothing that's completely a hard and fast rule that says that this variance should not be considered or could not be granted. I think the financial hardship question is a little bit more different. I don't think the case is straight on. The case that she's referring to is not necessarily a design standard case. And the variance here, the design variance, is not of a typical kind. When you see a zoning variance, what you normally see is conditions on a lot that would require the variance because the variance runs with the land, runs with the lot. So, I mean, I don't disagree with the way that this attorney has presented the existence of the case law and the applicable case law. I don't necessarily think that it like completely favors one side or the other, but I do think it allows you to have the discretion
Thank you, counsel.
to make the decision.
And I guess the only other thing is the primary reason for this in the first place, the $35,000, give or take, that it would cost to do it according to the current code?
My clients are actually up against a real time constraint at this point. So the quicker that we can get building done, the quicker they can reoccupy the property. So the time constraint is a huge issue right now, and that is one of the reasons. So if we had to continue with additional brick, obviously that is a concern with the additional cost. But the time constraint really is we're at the door right now.
Okay. As far as the first part about the 1.5 foot or whatever that is, I agree with like everybody, that's kind of a no-brainer. But I appreciate your comments and yours to get different sides to this.
Absolutely.
I'm inclined to go with my colleague Commissioner Zatar and Commissioner Nugent in approving both of these. The other thing too is, you know, the letters that we got from the neighbors, you know, you don't always consider that, but it's their neighborhood. If they're cool with it, you know, and again, if you're telling me that we have this rule because it's a structural thing, it's a safety thing, then that overrides everything in my opinion. It's just like I used the example of the electrical code. We're not making exceptions there, nor should we. I don't care what that costs.
Right.
But something like this, if it's more of an aesthetic thing, these houses are pretty close together too, so you're not gonna see a whole lot of the sides of these houses. If it was a corner lot or something like that, we'd be having a different discussion. But these lots in between are not that big.
Right.
So it's not, again, it's not like this thing's gonna stand out and people are gonna drive by thinking like, why is that?
And it won't alter the aesthetics of the neighborhood. I mean, we showed, I think, 9 different pictures for the houses, so.
Well, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Chairman, could I yield back
Thank you.
to follow up on the other point?
Commissioner Nugent?
So an evolution for staff, because you weren't here and all that, but I went through the experience of subdividing my old farmhouse, which had structural brick issues, and the village denied me, so I had to learn research, and something I know and I can share today. The first subdivision in Orland Park of an actual neighborhood is Fairway, which is 147th and 94th. The first neighborhood subdivision to have brick is Maycliff, 143rd around 88th Avenue. Maycliff was not required to have brick. We had 4 neighborhoods, including over here, that got built, and the first neighborhood that we required brick is Catalina. Catalina was the first neighborhood required all brick, and that went all out. That's face brick on all 4 sides. That input is from our unions, it was from construction standards and trying to take where we are. Fast forward to today, Pulte just got approved for a brand-new neighborhood in Orland Park. It'll be behind between Costco and,
Vinny.
yeah, like the extension of Costco behind the movie theater. Pulte is building the Lamont at the moment. If you go down McCarthy Road, the old Glen Eagles, a lot of people, probably the majority of people in Orland, and not objecting to the people that live in this neighborhood, feel if you look at Glen Eagles from McCarthy Road and you see $800,000 sided homes, majority of people in Orland Park say we don't want that. And it's not diminished from here. So the standard is not to let Pulte do that here. Pulte is gonna have to put brick on all 4 sides on their new neighborhood. And they're okay with it. And the homes are gonna cost more. And the homes in Lamont are not cheap. But a lot of people feel when you look at the back of those homes, you're looking at that mass cookie cutter stuff that Will County's allowed, and we feel that's not Orland standard. So the intention of the ordinance is to not have what Pulte's about to do. And Pulte said, yes, we understand the Orland Park standard. The intention is not to penalize our original first 4 or 5 neighborhoods here. And so we probably should have protection here. And to show that we've actually allowed almost half of Old Orland to be torn down and rebuilt with non-brick homes, we said, hey, let's protect what was there. Well, we have failed in the fact that we haven't protected these 4 or 5 original neighborhoods. And Fairway and Villa Dieste and both El Caminos. Now, in El Camino 1 and El Camino 2, whatever they call the other one, brick on all 4 sides was the first neighborhood where that was an option. So there are homes in there, even on the next street from you, that actually have brick on all 4 sides. Not many, but there's a couple few. Not on Holly, but on the next street, because that's a separate neighborhood. You go to the other El Camino on the other side of OJ, probably every 4th or 5th house is brick on all 4 sides. So there was an evolution with the market wanted and such. But we should understand the intention in the 60s and 70s and now, and I think the intent of our ordinance is what we're doing with Pulte and that neighborhood, and it's not supposed to be applied here. So I don't think the intent of our ordinance is to restrict a non-brick home here. That's my yield back.
Okay, I guess I'm the last one. I like Facebook. However, I think we have an obligation to be reasonable. And all they're asking is to rebuild the house after a total destruction to something that matches the rest of the neighborhood. I think that's very reasonable. And I think we need to be reasonable. For every rule, there's always an exception. This is a case where the exception would apply. So it sounds like the consensus of the commission is to go with option number 2 of our recommended motions. And if that's the case, then I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Paul, trustee,
Mr. Chairman, before,
Commissioner Paul,
can I ask a quick question? Do we need,
only if you're quick.
do you need a unanimous vote for them to move forward?
No, no.
So you don't, all right, okay.
And it's not going to committee of the whole. Tonight's final.
No, if they get approved, it'll be approved tonight, they can move forward.
So tonight, you are able to have final approval of the first variance request, the setback variance. The second request about the design standards, the brick, that you'll be recommending approval or denial, and that will go to the Board of Trustees. So that second one, if there is not a unanimous vote, it's my understanding it would go to the Committee of the Whole before proceeding to the board.
But it'll be the same night.
Okay, I just, it seems like it's moving forward, and I hate to kind of throw a wrench in it, but go ahead and move forward.
So we'll join.
Commissioner Paul, you had a motion?
Yeah, regarding case number 2025-0187, also known as the Gazaskis residence variance, I move to approve a variance from section 6-204.5.A.2 of the Land Development Code to reduce the minimum required side yard setback from 8 feet to 6 foot 7 inches, and recommend approval of a variance from section 6-308.F.5 of the Land Development Code to eliminate the requirement to have face brick or stone on not less than 50% of the exterior walls and 90% of each first floor elevation for a residential dwelling unit.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Okay, trustee Paul?
Aye.
Trustee Zatar? Trustee Nugent?
Aye.
Trustee Zamparelli?
They've convinced me. Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Wait a minute, I get to vote too. I vote aye.
Well, you better not go the wrong way.
Okay. Get that thing under construction.
Thank you all so much.
Good luck.
Oh, yeah, the board has to approve the recommendation, but usually when it's unanimous recommendation, they generally go along with it, so I hope I'm not misleading you by saying that, but they generally do. Okay, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing regarding the, did I pronounce it right, Gdauskas variances.
It's a simple Lithuanian name.
Take a motion to close public hearing
Close public hearing?
with your mic on.
Sorry. Move that we close public hearing, Gdauskas Residence Variance 2025-0187.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded twice. Commissioner Paul?
Aye.
Commissioner Zatar? Commissioner Nugent?
Aye.
Commissioner Zamparelli?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right. You're welcome.
Good luck to you.
Okay, since we've got a mass exodus, we'll wait a second here till that settles down.
No, also, as I said, the more expensive.
Nobody knows that.
I'm not sure that I would. Everybody look, yeah.
This particular house where it's even.
I mean, spreading things apart. Obviously, fire from throwing over your neighbors. And then building up more later just keeps it in.
That's why I'm part of the plan on the record.
Mr. Piattoni, when we get to the next item, do you want to go first, or do you want Ms. Gorman to go first?
I can go first.
You going first?
Thank you.
But that majority village one, but yeah, I'm sure the majority village is okay that this one.
They did it 6 feet from the side.
Well, there's a reason for it. Actually, they burned the house next door.
What?
Yeah, the house next door. You're back.
I'm late.
Next item is Dugan Park redevelopment project. Entertain a motion to open public hearing. Somebody?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to open case number 2025-0011, DP 24-00510.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Commissioner Zamparelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Paul?
Aye.
Commissioner Zatar? Commissioner Nugent?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Piattoni, floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to present this project. With me tonight is two members of Christopher Burke Engineering over on the side here. So Daniel Dem, civil engineer, and Doug Gotham, landscape architect. My name is Ray Piattoni. I'm the director of Recreation and Parks. And again, I'm pleased to present this project to you. Going to our first slide here. Here's what you see is the current situation at Dugan Park. So this is the current site plan. There is a playground there now. It's over 20 years old. There is one dedicated pickleball court, 2 tennis courts, and a half basketball court. In the site there, you see a building that has the name of Standing Stones Church. They used to rent space there. That building has been demolished. It no longer exists. And to your right in the screen is a former site of RDC. You see the parking structures there, a baseball field and the soccer field. So those are the current conditions at the park. There are paths that go around the park. The northwest corner of the park tends to flood, and so we hope that some of the changes that we make here will help mitigate that. This is the original site plan here. So in this site plan here, you can see the loop on number 1. We're proposing 10 pickleball courts. These pickleball courts will be lighted. The 2 tennis courts that currently exist will have lights added to them. Supporting the pickleball courts, we will add a shelter and 2 restrooms, so that will provide a shaded area for players to sit, socialize, wait for their turn to play, as well as the restrooms, and there'll be a water fountain that goes with that. We're going to make that soccer field bigger, so it'll be a larger soccer field that can accommodate full-size play, 11v11 or smaller, depending how it's striped. The baseball field looks a little bit different there, so that baseball field is a little bit smaller. We don't need as many big fields, so this will be a smaller field for our younger youth organizations, as well as our potential use by our special recreation department. We do want to add the half basketball court in there, so you can see that number 6. On number 7, I mentioned the bocce ball, or didn't mention the bocce ball court. So on number 7 there, you can see bocce ball courts. You'll see in the next slide that we're actually proposing to eliminate those bocce ball courts. Bocce ball isn't actually played that much. We find ourselves routinely removing those from parks, so we're actually proposing to remove those bocce ball courts and save the funds that go with that. In item 8 there, that's that gathering space that I mentioned for players. We're also going to add a playground, and you can see that in number 9 there. It's not a circular playground, it's just designated that as that, so you can understand the space that it would occupy, and that'll have a shelter, and I'll show you what that shelter looks like. It's a typical village park shelter. We had initially proposed to have a sledding area in that bottom area, number 10. Because we have to add a tension basin, we're proposing to eliminate that sledding hill. You'll see that in the next slide. We're looking at expanding the north parking lot and making improvements there, as well as squaring off and improving the south parking lot that you can see in the image there. There is an existing shelter on site, number 13. We're not going to be doing anything in that shelter or any work on the south property where all the mature trees are. And then you can see that drainage basin in the bottom corner there, number 14. On the next slide there, you can see just the changes that I mentioned. It is the same slide, but it has a removal of the bocce ball courts and the sledding hill. This project has an OSLAG grant, so it's an open space land acquisition and development grant from IDNR in the amount of $600,000. So we have to first gain approval from the state to remove the bocce ball courts, because that was approved with those, and the sledding hill. I think that we will be able to achieve that. We do have to gain board approval and state approval before we can do that. In this layout here, you just get a better idea of what the bocce ball courts look like. So you see 8 new courts there. The 2 in the upper part of pickleball, thank you. Pickleball courts. The 2 in the upper part will reuse some of the asphalt that exists already. That white portion is the existing tennis courts. And then you can see the shelter and all the sidewalk that supports that. You can see the image of the pickleball courts on the right side of that screen there. Each of the pickleball courts, sorry, Haley, will have the whole complex of pickleball courts will have an 8-foot fence that go around it. We'll be adding wind screens to that at a later time towards the end of the project. I mentioned earlier, we'll be adding lighting to the existing tennis courts. Each pickleball court will be separated by a 4-foot fence, so that provides secure play for the players where balls aren't going into each individual court. In this slide here, you see the restroom pavilion building. I'm going to point to the west elevation there. It gives you a good idea of what it's going to look like. So it has that open area for seating. We'll put picnic benches in there. In the image on the south elevation, you can see the doors to the restrooms. So the restrooms will be immediately to the left as you're looking to the east there. and this will be brick-faced. This is just a little tighter look at the soccer field and the baseball field, so you can get a better idea of what that looks like. These are the parking spaces. So I'm going to start on the north side there. So you can see on the north side there is pavement already, and then the location of that grass where RDC was. So we're proposing adding, improving that parking lot, which will include a total of 91 spaces in the north lot with 4 ADA spaces. The south lot exists already, but it needs some squaring off, so we'll square that off. That'll have 2 ADA spaces and 4 regular spaces, 42 total. And the total number of spaces will be 137, which is 5 above what is required for the parking lot. This is what the pavilion will look like. So this is the pavilion that will sit next to the playground. This is a typical village pavilion. We put these in all our playgrounds. So if you go near or around our parks, this is the pavilion that you'll normally see in our parks. This is the playground. The state has approved this playground as a part of the OSLAG grant already. It has a lot of elements that our rec advisory board looked at. Actually, we didn't have any public attendance, but our advisory board approved this playground, and the village board approved this playground as well, so that'll be installed as a part of this project. You can see on the upper left where the basketball court is, next to that pavilion, which is that square building in relation to the playground. And then you can see the dimensions of the basketball court. It'll just be a half basketball court. This is the lighting plan, so you can see each of the pickleball courts will have 4 lights. The tennis courts will have several lights to improve play and to make play really viable. We think it's important to have that lighting so that when there's evening play out there, play is safe and is not impacted by any dimness of missing lights. You can see the parking lot lights there in the islands and then along Park Lane there. These are the lights in the south parking lot, so we're only adding lights to the south parking lot. There won't be any lights in either of the pavilions or the basketball court. In the slide here, you can see the full tree inventory and the removal. So the trees that are being removed are in red. They're in the way of the project. Some of them are mature trees. As a part of this, we have to do quite a bit of planting, and I'll look at that, or I'll show you those in the next slides here, even though they'll be a little hard to see. Doug may be able to answer questions about that if there are any. So this is the seed mixes in the different grades of shading, show the different mixes that'll go into the space. So athletic seed over on the fields there. No-mow is kind of an important seed for us, reduces labor and cost. Some aeration and improvement. So this is the seeding plan here. This shows the overall landscape overview. I know it's a little bit hard to read, but this has all the different perennials, all the trees that'll be added. We have to add 18 trees along Park Lane, and so we'll be adding those. We hope to be able to include 2 existing trees as a part of the 18 tree inventory that we have to include in the project. And this is the south portion that also shows the landscaping that'll take place on that side of the park. And that is the end of the presentation.
Ms. Gorman.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I would like to begin by requesting that the staff report be accepted into the record as written and as presented during this meeting. So Ray did a great job of summarizing what this project entails, but I'll get into the details of the zoning entitlements that are required for a project like this. So this project includes a rezoning, a special use permit for recreational facility lighting with a modification from the Land Development Code, a variance, and then also site plan and landscape plan approval. So the subject property is located at 14700 and 14760 Park Lane. It's located within both the R3 residential district and the OS open space district. Under the comprehensive plan, the location falls under the Orland Grove Planning District with a land designation of open space, parks and recreation, and community and institutional. So this slide shows an image of the Orland Grove Planning District from the comprehensive plan. The property is bordered by single-family detached homes to the north, east and south, and then the railroad and Brown Park and more single-family detached homes to the west of the site. And this can be seen here as well through a recent aerial image of the property. To provide a bit more of additional background on Dugan Park, it's located on an approximately 17-acre site that was previously home to the Robert Davidson Center, which was demolished in 2019, as well as the Village's Cultural Center, which was demolished in early 2024. Moving forward to the site plan, I won't go into the details that Ray already mentioned, but this is just an overview of the redevelopment that's being proposed for the park. Part of this project includes the renovation of both parking lots, the north and south. They're going to be completely redone, which includes the installation of a north lot with about 95 parking spaces and a south lot with 42 spaces. Bicycle racks will also be installed adjacent to each parking lot. So the parking meets our current code requirements and actually exceeds them by quite a bit. So the first entitlement requested with this project is to rezone a portion of the property from R3 residential to OS open space. So rezoning these parcels will allow for the entire park to be under the same zoning district, which will be more consistent with the use of the property as a park. So 4 of the 7 parcels need to be rezoned, and they're the 4 shown in orange on the map here closest to Park Lane. Again, as part of any rezoning or zoning map amendment request, we're required to respond to the LaSalle standards listed here. And again, just due to the responses to these standards and the use of the continual use of the property as a park, staff is in support of the request to rezone for the 7 parcels from R3 to OS. The second request for the project is for a special use permit for recreational facility lighting. Because of their unique requirements for nighttime visibility and limited hours of operation, outdoor recreational facilities are exempted from certain illumination requirements, but are still required to submit a lighting plan and be processed as a special use. So as Ray already mentioned, there's substantial lighting proposed around the new pickleball courts and the existing tennis courts as shown in this snapshot from the lighting plan. This will allow for the courts to be used later in the day after sunset. There's also lighting proposed throughout the new parking lots as well, and then existing lighting in the park will be maintained. So the petitioner has also responded to our special use permit standards, and the responses just discussed that this special use will allow for the continued use of the site as a public park and will ultimately benefit the community by offering additional recreational opportunities. The proposed lighting also requires a modification from the Land Development Code to allow for an increase in the maximum foot candle over the north property line. So the code requires that there be no light spillage over property lines between residential and non-residential uses. However, the new lighting around the tennis and pickleball courts may cause a spillage of approximately 0.5 foot candles. And for those who are unfamiliar, a foot candle is a unit of illumination produced on a surface. Unfortunately, just with the type of lighting that's proposed, shields cannot be added to the lights to reduce any light trespass. So the modification from this code requirement is necessary. So part of the reason this requirement is triggered is because the property to the north is zone residential. However, any light spillage that may occur would be near the rear of that property, closer to the railroad tracks. Therefore, staff does not anticipate a major impact to occur from any light spillage and is in support of this modification request. They're also requesting a variance from the Land Development Code to eliminate the requirement to install a public sidewalk within a quarter mile of a park. So the code requires that the Dugan Park redevelopment include a sidewalk extension to the north. However, the request is to keep the sidewalk as is. So the red outline shown here on the site plan is the existing and proposed sidewalk, which is a carriage walk style, and it's right up against the street along Park Lane. As shown in the image here, this is from Google Street View, just showing where the sidewalk would need to be extended if it were to meet our current code requirements. However, just consistent with our variance request, the petitioner provided responses to our variance standards listed here. In their responses, they note that there's a change in grade from the property to the north that's unique to this area, in which a sidewalk wouldn't be suitable for safety and stormwater drainage purposes. So again, going back to that midge here, it's hard to see, but you can see that to the property to the north, there is like a grading change. It's higher up on the ground, making it a slope in a slanted area. So here's an overview of the preliminary landscape plan for the project. The landscape plan has received conditional preliminary approval at this time. There are a few minor comments that need to be addressed before any permits can be issued for the project. Specifically, certain items must be addressed and around the proposed detention area adjacent to the baseball field. Some of the outstanding comments listed in the staff report have actually already been addressed in the most recent landscape plan, which is not within the Plan Commission packet, as it was just received earlier today, April 15th, 2025. Relief may be required from one or more of the outstanding comments listed, and if it is determined that that's required, it would be considered an additional variance, which would need to come back before the Plan Commission for an additional public hearing, and then before proceeding to the Board of Trustees for final consideration. And that would only be if it's determined after further review that an additional variance is required for this project. The staff recommended action is over multiple slides, so bear with me for a moment here. But staff recommends to accept and make findings of fact as discussed at this Plan Commission meeting and within the staff report dated April 11, 2025. And staff recommends the Plan Commission approve a rezoning of 4 of the 7 parcels from R3 residential to OS open space. And staff recommends the Plan Commission approve a special use permit for recreational facility lighting with a modification from the Land Development Code, subject to the following conditions. 1, abide by Village Code Section 3-1-11-1, requirements for ball field lighting hours. 2, meet all code requirements, landscape requirements, and final engineering requirements, including required permits, except where otherwise modified in this ordinance. And staff further recommends approval of a modification from the Land Development Code to increase the maximum foot candle allowed at the north property line for non-residential to residential from 0 to 0.5 per section 6-315A2A3. And staff further recommends the Plan Commission approve a variance from section 6-406A2 of the Land Development Code to eliminate the requirement to install a public sidewalk along a local street within a quarter-mile radius of a park. And staff recommends the Plan Commission approve a site plan and landscape plan prepared by Christopher B. Burke Engineering, LTD, revised April 9, 2025, subject to the following conditions. 1, that all outstanding review comments will be addressed prior to issuance of a building permit, including the following revisions to landscape plan A through D. And then 2, meet all code requirements, landscape requirements, and final engineering requirements, including required permits, except where otherwise modified in this ordinance. And this concludes the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gorman. Okay, we have a few people who have signed in. I think we'll want to talk about this. First of all, Frank Mullet. Okay. Tom Hallett. Come on over here and give your name and address, please.
Okay, I'm Tom Hallett. I live at 14650 Westwood Drive, just on the other side of the tracks, if you will, from Dugan. And I will say for the record that I am a pickleball player and I'm very much a proponent of pickleball. That being said, maybe some of my comments might seem a little bit kind of negative, if you will, to the pickleball side, but what's going to happen is if any of you are familiar with Heck Park in Mokina, they have 6 or 7 courts there, and every morning or every day you'll get 50, 60 people there every day of the week during the summer. It's great. It's wonderful. Now we're going to have 10 courts. We're going to have people coming from all over, and you're going to need every one of those parking spaces. My guess is, just from talking with different people, because I walk the park every day, and I'm pretty much knowledgeable of every inch of that park. The neighbors on the east side of the park are oblivious to what's going on. They shouldn't be. They should be here. They should have been at the other meetings, and they weren't. so you're going to get pushback, if you will, because of the number of people that come, but especially at night with lights. Before I retired, I was the vice president of Concordia University, Chicago, in River Forest, and whenever we would broach the subject of lights, all heck would break loose. It'd be terrible. And then all of a sudden, and City Hall would be deluged with people, and things would be approved and be unapproved because of what was going on. Be careful of that. I love the lights. This is not my feeling here. This is now I've got to put a village hat on and a neighborhood hat on. I live on the other side of the tracks, and the lights, we'll see it. There's no question, but it doesn't bother me, or it won't bother us as much. If you have lights, this is more of an operational issue. I would put a 9 o'clock deadline on it every night and not go any further. One of the problems we had with the park before, when kids would play basketball until 11 and 12 and 1 and 2. Now, they would keep us up on our side of the night, and so we need to keep it quiet after a certain period, because otherwise you're going to have all sorts of complaints. And I really don't want to be sitting in your seat when they come in. A couple of questions I have about the flooding. You mentioned the flooding on the north side, or northwest side, but you didn't say how it was going to be dealt with. That flooding there is terrible, but they just put in some sewers there to go under sewer lines underneath, so maybe that will tie in. But that flooding is awful there for probably 12, 13, 14 weeks per year. And Ray knows, Ray's heard me talk about that with him, and I've sent them all sorts of recommendations, and even one of my recommendations looks like it might have made, whether a coincidence might have made the plans there, for the southwest side with the flooding. So that should hopefully deal with that side. But there's also a lot of flooding that occurs right in the middle of the soccer fields, and I've got some pictures at times where the whole field is a lake. And so I don't know if it's just grading that needs to be done, and that's probably part of the plan, but it wasn't mentioned at all. So it just needs to be dealt with. I've seen kids playing, soccer and football there, and just, the water is just terrible. It's just sometimes there are 3 inches of water, and they're out there playing soccer. So that all needs to be dealt with in some way, shape, or form. So those are my main questions, and the only other recommendation I have, and I couldn't really tell by the plan, is wherever there are entrances into the tennis courts or the pickleball courts, make sure there's an asphalt pathway of some type that takes it from the loop pathway into it, because otherwise you're walking through mud and whatever, and especially up in that northwest corner, as much as you're going to be dealing with the flooding there, it's still going to be an issue. So those are my questions and issues, and I'll yield the floor.
Thank you. Tom Nolan. Okay, is there anybody else who'd like to come on up? You're okay.
I live on West Avenue.
Okay, what's your name, please?
Penny Niederworski on West Avenue, 14822 West Avenue. And being a resident on West Avenue.
Can you raise your right hand, please?
I did swear one night.
Oh, you did?
did? Okay.
Thank you.
Let's stand right there.
People in the front.
I don't want to do it twice. Living on West Avenue right now, I have 9 ball fields across the street from me with that's 18 teams. They're coming in every hour, Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday from now, started last week, and it'll go until October. Now you're telling me you're going to add 10 courts in the back of my neighborhood, which is going to be even more cars coming into the neighborhood. There's nobody guiding these people. They drive around, U-turns, this and that. It's horrible in the morning. I hear the aluminum bats starting at 6:45 in the morning. You're going to hear pickleball balls being hit all day long. Why do you have to have the courts at night? Maybe stop it when it's dark. Have some quiet time for us in the neighborhood. We have not. It's crazy. I don't know what else I can add to it. Fewer courts, make it for the neighborhood instead of trying to draw outside people in, because that's what 10 courts will do, won't it? I guess I don't have much else to say.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else who'd like to, yes, Mr. Okay.
I haven't been sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you present will be the truth and nothing but the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. David Mandenberg, I'm at 10055 Holly Court, just around the corner. We use the park.
This is your neighborhood park.
This is our neighborhood park. We've been in the home for 25 years, and we love it here, right? So we use it every day or, all the time. So we've seen the park go through a lot of transitions with the library. Then the library's gone, and then we had the other building, the recreational building there. And there's been a lot of sort of transitions with traffic and different things, sometimes more traffic, sometimes less. The park has history of, different things going on from years back, from some of my other neighbors telling me things. But, I think one of the questions I've got, I concur completely on the traffic, is has there been a traffic study done? I mean, do we know, looking at this, how much traffic we're gonna get that's additional to what we've got now? And what that impact is gonna be, because really that's the kind of thing that you wanna be able to tell people. So it's not a surprise, because it's clearly gonna be a lot more traffic and it's gonna be a lot more for a much longer period of time. What are the hours of the pickleball courts? We're talking about going into the evening. Is it gonna go till 11 o'clock at night? Is it gonna go till 10 o'clock at night? And so the lighting part of it is another issue of, you gotta have the security, the lighting has to be there to make sure the park is secure. We're there, at night, we're there in the mornings. We see coyotes running through there all the time. So it's still kind of a cool, natural place. And I go through the, underneath to the other park on the other side. What is it, Hunter Park or something over there? So my question is, has there been a lighting study to tell us what exactly the impact is going to be for the additional lighting, and how long will that lighting be on? How does that conversation take place about those hours and the hours of operations, and my question is, when does that happen? When do we actually engage in that kind of conversation about how the park is going to be utilized? I see the park is just wide open for development. I mean, it's great that we're doing this kind of a thing, and I think it's really well worth it. But I do want to sort of keep, the Frisbee golf thing going. We use that, and I know it's the lower section of that plan. It doesn't really address that hill. We used to call it the alien landing where the waterworks was, right? So that's original stuff there.
It wasn't waterworks, it was a sanitary
That's what it was,
plant.
ponds, right? So
Settling pond
I'm
for
assuming that
sewage.
the Frisbee golf is going to be maintained and
Yes.
and it's going to be still part of the integrity of the park. So those are questions I've got, and how that whole thing is going to come together. I'm for the development of the park, but I think that there's quite open questions on the traffic and how the traffic's going to be handled, because we have seen the craziness of the coming down the hill from West Avenue, coming around, roaring around up Highland and trying to get out of there. There's a lot of cut through going on anyways from over St. Mike's Way. So anyways, those are my questions. I'd like to know when those kinds of things would be addressed, and how we can stay engaged in the process. So thank you.
Anybody else who would like to address the board? Okay, Commissioner Zatar.
I was really hoping the parks staff was gonna talk when you said anyone else, because there was a lot of questions.
Well, you know what? Why don't we give them a chance to answer some of these questions like I said I was gonna do. Okay, Ray, we've got the big question from three of the people seems to be, well, first of all, is there enough parking if we're gonna have 10 pickleball courts? And then the big question is about the hours of pickleball if we're gonna have lights. So why don't you take those two questions for starters?
Sure, we think there's enough parking, so there's, the play with 10 courts would potentially be
You know,
4.
We're having trouble hearing you. Can you?
Sure. The play for 10 courts would potentially be 40 people at a time, with another 40 waiting to play. So that would be 80 total people, 80 total cars. So we meet that requirement. The lighting, we are the use of the lights at night, we've thought about the same thing, so we haven't got far enough to engage our board, so the Recreation Advisory Board. We do recognize that we do need to set hours for the park, both opening hours and closing hours. So we don't want to be bad neighbors in the neighborhood. We want to use the park responsibly and be a good neighbor. We just haven't got that far because we're trying to get the project approved, and then once we get it approved, we'll start talking about how the park will be used and programmed.
What do you anticipate would be the latest hour you might have before it closes?
Well, technically, by code, the ordinance states that parks with lights can operate till 10:30 and must be extinguished by 10:45. In our informal conversations, we don't think that's reasonable, and so in our thought, we were thinking more around 9 o'clock, potentially open 8 o'clock and running till 9 o'clock. One of the things that we did at Schussler Park, so we recently opened Schussler Park with the football fields there, and that field is open all day, but we actually set hours and gained approval with the board as well, where that park opens at 7 a.m. and closes at dusk year-round, or at sunset year-round, unless it's scheduled for play and then the lights are on. So this is a little bit different there. If we were to have a tournament, it might run a little bit later, but I don't anticipate tournaments running at night. I think those would run during the day or on the weekends. So our initial thought would be 9 o'clock, but we would take it to the Rec Advisory Board, get their input, their approval, and then take it to the board for formal approval.
What'd you say again? It would open at 9 in the morning and until what time at
I think
night?
it would probably be 8 o'clock.
9 to 8?
Yeah, when you think about the summer, it starts to heat up pretty fast. I think that 8 o'clock time slot would be a valuable time slot where it hasn't quite got hot. And it's a
I've
really
seen
hot,
people there
humid day.
earlier. I've seen people there earlier. at the
They would
court.
be there early if you let them, yes.
They get there early. I don't think, I mean, and 7:30 works. I've seen this,
Sure.
there's only the one pickleball court and then the two tennis courts. But there's a big group there every Saturday.
Well, if you open it at 6, there'll be people there at 6.
Okay, the other question was, are you going to, I think you already kind of answered this, but didn't really highlight it. Is there going to be any effect on the south end of the park, specifically where Frisbee golf is? I think you said no.
There's no impact to the trees or Frisbee golf.
Okay. Is there any development at all? Well, I'll get to that when we go to the commission. I think those are the major questions about parking, hours. Oh, flooding. Yeah, flooding was a big question too. You specifically mentioned the northwest corner, but somebody, I think it was, I forget who, Mr. Hallett mentioned the soccer field. And I've had occasion to be in that park many times over the last 40 years or so. And when it rains pretty good, that park is usually unusable for a couple of days. And if it rains really hard, it can be a week. And it's not just the northwest corner, it's the whole north end from that path that comes from the pedestrian underpass to the parking lot that runs from east to west. Anything north of there just is soggy after it rains. So what's being done to address that issue?
So, and I don't know if Seabell can help.
Yeah,
you
we
with
have the
it.
engineer here. Let's
I'm gonna-
have a discussion about what you're gonna do to dry that park out.
I do. Daniel Dem, Christopher Burke Engineering.
Yes.
So the current site layout has drainage that goes under and out west to the detention pond that's across the tracks. That sewer is currently inundated with sediment, so there's blockage there. Part of the flooding might be due to that, but if we can go to another slide that shows we are proposing a detention pond, and this is related to the, I guess that could handle it. So southwest corner, there's a detention pond. We have graded the whole site so that everything kind of flows down towards that pond. There's an inlet to that pond or an outlet, depending on how you're looking at it. That eventually flows through a pipe and out to the detention pond that's on the other side of the tracks. So the whole site's supposed to drain out through there.
Okay, is that new detention pond going to be north of the existing pedestrian path?
The detention pond is just southwest of the soccer field, just west of the baseball field. So it'll be north of the path that kind of swings around. just to the right of that pedestrian underpass.
Okay, so you're not really proposing any development south of that pedestrian path?
Correct. Nothing.
And that's where the old sanitary district settling pond is, to the south of that path?
No, it's to the north of it. It is where the detention pond is proposed and a little bit of the soccer field.
The MWRD is south of it.
Okay, I'm confused then. It's been a while since I've
Look
been
at
there.
the
You're talking
drawing.
right here, right?
Yeah, right there. So right to the,
left lower corner there, but that's the furthest south part of the property, correct? Well, no.
No,
so under where the green line is, that's kind of, off screen. That's where the Frisbee golf and the hill and all that are located. So we'd be north of that.
yeah, but I think the old settling pond is under that hill that you were talking about being the sledding hill.
It's both. So the aerial images and the information that we were able to get kind of say that it was mostly on the southwest corner of the site. It's hard to exactly figure where it was, but it is generally in the whole.
I gave Mr. Piattoni the name of the village engineer
Okay.
who retired about, I don't know, 15 years ago. But he'd been,
Here in the 70s, that would
Yes.
be a good resource.
yes,
That's about
yes, he
when
was
they
here in the
did-
70s.
Okay.
And his name was Andy Bosma. You might contact him, he still lives in town.
Okay.
And he can probably give you a lot of information about when that facility was decommissioned and what was done to decommission it and what's underneath the ground.
Yeah, we've done geotechnical investigations, mostly for pollutants and things like that. The site's pretty clean. We don't have any information that indicates that anything is still buried under there. We've reached out to MWD, who own the facility. They don't have any information on that says one way or another. So we are going to assume that everything is clear on site, and if not, we'd have to deal with it come construction time.
I can also see on the, I'm looking at a Google Earth image, and on that image, Chairman Schuessler, you mentioned there was a circle from the old site, so I can see that on the image, and it is south of that sidewalk, so that means it'll be south of that detention pond.
I think that circle is the old settling pond where they allowed the sewerage to settle.
That was the garage.
Yeah. Okay, well, just, you're gonna have to do some research, and otherwise you may discover some things you're not aware of when you start digging.
We're looking everywhere we can.
Okay, so you think with the changes you're making with regard to the drainage, it will solve the existing problems?
The whole site is being regraded and should be addressed, yeah.
Okay. Those were the questions that I think people from the audience mentioned. We'd have enough parking. You said there'd be enough parking. The flooding issue.
Traffic study.
Lights.
Well, I'm sure we have some questions too, so I think that was.
Okay, you're going to talk about traffic study when you get to your, okay. All right, let's go to commissioners. Commissioner Zatar.
Thank you. I think we should take that last comment a little more seriously, not just wait till construction time. If we can call one more phone number to get some info, why not, right? One engineer to another. I have a few questions, right? And so sometimes these meetings make me antsy, to say the least, because I read what we're approving, and what ends up being talked about is a whole different subject in a different forum, right? We're approving changing the zoning from R1, which is owned by the village land, to open space, which is what we want our parks to be zoned at, like slam dunk, easy decision, I think, for us, I hope. We want to do a special use permit for lighting. Well, we know that all these larger parks lately, we've been doing like some sort of theme or some sort of special activity. We did the soccer field, we're doing this one, and so we're gonna get some lights. I think that the operational questions are really valid. I think those have to go to the operations department. We're being, but to say we're not gonna allow lights, I mean, I think we need to set rules, but I think we're probably gonna allow lights. This is one of the, larger parks, and it's not one of the little ones, right? So, they want to build lights, and they look like they designed a nice park. We're being asked to approve a variance for elimination of a requirement on a sidewalk. Seems like a little, like a little note, like, okay, sure, I'm sure the designers know what they're doing there. And we accept the plans. So the last one is the big one, right? Do we accept the plans? Well, this isn't really the Parks Commission, but, so I have a question there. Usually when you design a park, and we're in the business of public service, you have a Parks Commission. Did everyone get notices to go to the meeting to provide their input to you when you were planning for all the public hearings on, do we want an ice skating rink here? Do we want a pickleball court here? Do we want, a circus here? Like, did you guys have
Yes.
those meetings?
Yes, we did. We had public engagement meetings at the cultural center. We notified all the residents that live, I don't remember the number of feet from the park. Many of the gentlemen here were in attendance. We had probably 40-some people in attendance. We presented the concept, and the concept that they saw is really not any different than what we're presenting today. It looks a little bit different because, Seabell put their rendering into it, but the overall plan with the pickleball courts, the sledding hill is all the same. They helped us apply for the OSLAT grant, and so that's what you see today is what was presented to the state to receive that OSLAT grant, and that's why we would have to go to them for permission to remove 2 elements.
Yeah, that's my main question. That helps me a lot because, we've seen people come in and complain about the little picnic coverings on the parks when they got notified at their houses, and we're just kind of like, it's just a little picnic covering. And then we saw people complain about the football field turf and the sledding hill and the parking. And, I always think in the back of my head, like, are we doing enough to notify people during the time period when it really matters to give your input before we pay a really well-known, expensive engineering company to full-blown give us the drawings on everything we already asked for, and now we're talking about changing it, which probably, to me, we're not voting on changing the design. We're voting on some codes. So that the ship kind of sailed, and it frustrates me for you, because if I were to move next to a park, and they were going to change it, I'd want to be super involved. And so I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can to get people involved. Other than that, it's a park. We're going to change the park every 40 years or whatever the timeline is. And if this is what the people wanted, who am I? So thank you guys for your efforts. I appreciate the presentation. That's all I had.
Commissioner Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, most of the questions that I had have been answered. I was concerned about the length of time that the lights would be on. Sounds like you've answered that. I would imagine that before this gets a final vote by the board, those questions will be answered for sure.
This is going to the board on Monday, the 21st.
Okay. I mean, at some point, we have
Pending
to draw a
this-
line somewhere. We don't want to say, yeah, 9 o'clock, and then when the park opens, we're going to keep it open until 11 or 12. So whatever we agree to, that by the time it gets to the full board, that's what it should be. It sounds like residents were at least given the opportunity to participate. I don't know who did. I'm not on the Parks Commission, but it sounds like we had some input. And again, I mean, you buy a house across from a park, one of 2 things. It's going to be a park that may change from time to time, or it's going to be a subdivision. And I think, I would guess, most people that buy a house near a park would prefer to see a park stay there, and that's what we're doing. So, yeah, I'm good with what we've talked about here, and I have no problem with it, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Nugent?
So you talked about some of the things that I had, but I felt like you raised more questions than I answered. And one good comparison, which came up a little bit today, we didn't say the name, but we're following the design pattern of Schuessler Park. Fairway is a rarely large neighborhood. They picked the lowest spot where it was naturally draining, which is Schuessler Park. And back then, I think we didn't start till 1978. Parks were detention, retention, and water. I don't know that I fully understand the MWRD impact of what was down in there, but my kids are 23 and 25, and between their sports and the old library, I know that this holds water. So at Schuessler, we have state-of-the-art engineering with underground water storage. And we all know why this park is where it is. It's the low point. I mean, the reason why we can't have the sidewalk, because we go to 147th, we go north. I think that house has a Highland address. That's very high. The homes on the 8 streets, Orland Hills, the Hyacinth and Highland in that neighborhood, they're higher there. So the water naturally all wants to come to the park. I don't think I got sold on the idea that the new detention pond is handling all the water. It's obviously detention, or it's retention, because it's connecting to the other side by Brown Park, right? So we had this on one of the other parks before. It felt a little wishy-washy. Have we understood the capacity of, we're gonna correct what was done in 1969, collect the water properly, not have anything flood? There's no reason for the soccer or baseball field to ever be flooded anymore because we're not doing that standard. So are we collecting the water to 2025 standards and slowly emitting it to the other side on the west side by Brown Park?
And I would turn to Seabell as a part of it, but I'll do a quick introduction. So while we are doing a level of stormwater mitigation, there is only so much that we can do financially. So, you know, Schuessler Park has storm trap. It was very costly. The goal of this park is to improve the park, but the primary element really is the pickleball courts. And Orland Park has one dedicated pickleball court. So, you know, the impetus of this park that drives it is the pickleball courts. The soccer field is not a great soccer field, so it gives us the opportunity to improve that soccer field. We know that all our grass turfs, they suffer in the rain. In the rain we had last week, Catchy Park was underwater, and I think we're finally getting back out there, but it's a flat surface, it's not crowned. This soccer field will be crowned, so that helps the drainage some. You know, some of the improvements we're making will help it. It won't be perfect. If we get, you know, those heavy rains like last week, it is going to be unusable. We suffer the same things with all our grass parks. We would love to put turf everywhere and make our surfaces always playable. It's great for our players. You know, when it rains at Schuessler, doesn't matter. Once the rain stops, we're playing over there. And that's the most desirable thing, because one of the things we struggle with is quality playing surfaces. We have so many soccer teams, our playing surfaces are overplayed. Last year, we rested one park just so we could rest, seed it, fertilize it, just grow the grass back. This year, we're taking another soccer field 1 at Centennial, and we're scraping that down, we're regrading it, and we're gonna add sod, and it's the same thing. So we're doing our best to do that. We've started to have discussions about, you know, do we need to have practice fields and game fields, so that when our teams play, they have a high-quality turf game field, because we can't accommodate everybody on the Schuessler turf. Schuessler is a very popular field. It's turned out to be a great product. The problem with that field now is that it's overused. So I would love to introduce turf there, but it's just the price tag is too high for us. So we're trying to do what we can to improve this park. The playground is a great element. You know, the new basketball court, which puts it closer to the street, will reduce the security issues, because with the basketball court towards the back, kids would collect there. So now that it's closer to the street, the police will be able to see that play a little bit better. The playground is placed in such a location that parents will be able to see their kids on the playground, the baseball field, and the soccer field. So it's not the end-all of end-alls, and there are budget limitations that allow us to get there.
So we don't currently technically have a true detention or retention. So this is actually an improvement, correct?
Yes. Correct.
And then it is all going to release to the west. I know it's more of an engineering question, but.
I'll have to turn to Dan for that one.
So we're gonna collect and then release to the west, right?
Correct. We have about 2.5 acre feet, something like 4,000 cubic yards of detention in that pond. This is the current standard for MWRD, which is who we are going to be permitted through the watershed management ordinance. So this is the new standard. This is currently up to date, which I would say is stricter than neighboring areas, this water reclamation district. So this is new detention that's kind of attached to old detention, and we are attenuating that flow with this dry flow pond.
And the west side can handle the additional capacity of a more efficient flow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been sized in our stormwater report, which we've submitted to MWD for permit.
Okay. Thank you. And then, so the connection to Brown Park, nothing's changing there. And we're gonna have, there's, really, the whole thing has a path. I don't know if I saw that. So you're still, like, I can live by his house on Westwood, come and still do a walk and circulate?
Right, we don't change any of the pathways between this park and Brown Park.
And those, but we have a circular path of some sort
Yeah, if
around
you
this park?
go, I think, to the,
I don't know if I
to the
saw enough
conceptual
walking.
image, it should show there, so you can see the pathways there.
Okay, so in front of the railroad tracks is a path. That's what that
Correct.
is. And that was one of my questions on the lighting, after you brought it up. If he can see the lights on Westwood Drive to the north and west, is it gonna affect the commuter trains having this new intense lighting at the train
I
level?
don't think so. I think at least the illumination plans that I saw put the court lighting right on the court, so I don't think it'll bleed that far to the south. I don't know if Dan or Doug have a different opinion
I
on
don't think
that.
they turn into it neither.
They're past, but if they're gonna have, you know, a spaceship next to them. And then, and I thought I learned in the way past, a reason why the pickleball site was chosen here. At one point, there was a library and there was a rec center. So it already had intense traffic. Nothing against you, this came up at Schussler, but it already was meant to be a capacity center.
Correct.
So the fact that it's had a tone down because the buildings are gone, it's going back to its maximum traffic. But that doesn't mean that the baseball and football people that are across west should be causing traffic into the neighborhood. I guess that's it. Some good. Thank you.
Commissioner Zamperelli?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You guys pretty much covered everything I wanted to ask, but I guess one point, the library was there, so yes, there was a lot of traffic there. You know, it hasn't been used for a while, but there was a lot, and they were in and out. So, but I think this is great. I love it. I think this park is way overdue for some improvements, all right? But question, Ray, they were digging a big hole there right alongside that basketball court last summer. Did they finish that up?
I think, is that part of the sewer plan there, or that whole?
That was the part, is that,
Yeah.
not deep tunnel though, that was a deep hole, wasn't it? Yes, Kieran. Oh, thanks. You didn't say anything.
We're recording the meeting, so that's why you have to come up to the
Understood.
microphone.
Thank you. That was a sewer improvement that I had not personally worked on, but that is part of the adjacent to the park, north of the tennis ball.
That was stormwater sewer.
I'm sorry?
That's stormwater sewer.
Stormwater only, yes, correct.
Oh, that should have made a pretty big improvement, right?
Yes, but that wasn't directly for the park. That was related to regional stormwater.
Okay, because I knew that was going on, and matter of fact, are we done? Is that finished?
It's a public works project, I don't know.
It's
the status.
all sealed up?
I believe it's wrapping up.
Okay, good. Because I was playing pickleball there, and I noticed some kids, they were throwing their basketballs over that fence, and they're going in that hole, and I'm thinking, this isn't gonna work out. They're climbing down into that hole. So, but anyway, all right, I thought that would have been an improvement. Well, my next question, basically, it was about the lighting. I've played pickleball there, probably about 8 o'clock at night in the summer, until we had no light. And, 9 o'clock, I could see it probably going a little past 9:30, but I have to say, if I lived along
Park Avenue.
Yeah, Park Avenue there, that would be an issue, They didn't, I guess if they didn't complain, I do know a lot of people that were playing pickleball on those courts. So I think it's great with the 10. My question though is if you got 40 people playing pickleball, which we're gonna have, you got 40 people waiting, where are all the cars for all the soccer, or anything else?
The south parking lot should absorb some of that.
We got 137 total, correct?
137 total, 42, I think, in the south parking lot. So there's 137 you can see here. So it will be tight. We're trying to avoid street parking. The baseball field, we don't anticipate heavy use, and the football field or the soccer field will be, St. Mike's will be there for their practices again, and we will use it for soccer as much as we can.
I was at that park a lot last summer, and I was blown away by the activity. It is just bursting with all different, the frisbee golf, all that. It's just a really, really well-used park. But I guess there's a lot of rooftops around there, so. Bathrooms. How big are these bathrooms?
There's two restrooms in the building just to the east of the pickleball courts. 2 permanent.
Just how many stalls in them?
Pardon me?
Just one stall in each?
1 stall in each, yeah.
That enough? I
It
mean,
depends who you ask. I mean, yes and no.
I'm thinking,
It is, you have to take your turn at Schussler, and sorry to keep referring to that. We do have restrooms there as well, and I think, and that's a much bigger complex. I think there's 5 in the men's, 5 in the women's, and 1 family. These are individual unisex stalls.
is it a big deal to add a couple more? I mean, because I know, I've been there. There's
It's
older
costly,
people.
yeah, it's costly. There will be a porta potty, on the south side for the soccer and baseball field, so we'll have, still have porta potties.
Which tends
over
to
there.
burn a lot. I've seen that thing burned
It
a few
happens.
times.
It does happen.
You know, I just think, we should really consider a couple more stalls in that bathroom. I just, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's gonna be an awesome place, it's gonna be busy. You know, we don't have anywhere to play pickleball in Orland, you know? I go to Payless because I can't get to, Dugan, you get that one court and it's crowded, and then the 2 tennis courts. Now, the question about the sidewalk, it's running along Park Avenue, and then it stops right by where the old Robert Davidson building, and I understand why you can't, because you got that turf that goes up. What are we gonna do with them, the people? They're just gonna stand there, we're gonna put an arrow so they know to cross the street?
And
We're
I'm
gonna have a
gonna look to
crosswalk there,
see about
maybe?
part of that, but the part of that is that to extend that sidewalk, it doesn't go to anywhere. So I think that's part of why we got rid of that.
Yeah, right in front of the Robert Davidson building.
Right.
Right. I agree. It would just
Well,
stop right at the hill.
The parking lot feeds right into it, and I think, yeah.
Here, though, can't we just kind of cross, but we have a crosswalk or something?
We weren't gonna do a crosswalk for a number of different reasons. Doug, do you wanna touch base on that one?
I'm curious of why.
Doug Gotham, Christopher Burke Engineering. The reason is because we have to cut into the parkway across the way and make that ADA accessible as well.
Here?
Yes.
That has,
It cascades across. So yes, we can take a crosswalk across, we have to make that ADA, and we have to make the other side ADA as well. And all those driveways occur along that area. So it's like missing lights, missing driveways, missing signs, and still achieving the ADA. So it'd be better just not to touch it.
oh, I hate hearing that.
I know,
Oh,
I know.
the park's been crying for work.
But you can take the sidewalk down 147th and it ends at Park.
Yeah.
So if I live north 140,
No, it doesn't.
No, yeah. He's right, you're right, it comes down on that side there. And,
back to your old house, it doesn't keep going down 147?
No, it's on the other side. No, there wasn't. I offered to put a sidewalk there. We don't have a sidewalk on 147th.
right.
Either side.
Oh.
I mean, and it's terrible. Penny knows, Penny lives there, so.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I offered to put a sidewalk on the south side of 147th, because all those kids. And then I got an argument with somebody about disabilities, wheelchairs. I mean, it's too steep of a hill. We gotta put I forget what they call it.
Right.
What do you call it when you got a?
Ramp,
Yeah, but it's gotta be,
Yeah.
because the slope is too steep.
right.
So they told me to put what do they call it, a crossjack or something that goes back and forth?
A
do a
switchback.
Switchback, that's
Yeah.
it, thanks.
We do this a lot.
Well, I'm again, I think that we should, because especially with that curve right there, it's kind of a tricky little spot for people to cross it, especially if we're gonna,
We can recommend.
Right, and that's another reason why we don't want to put it near that curve. It has to go further south.
where it ends, kind of like that, but over here somewhere, you know?
Yeah, but then he said you got the driveway issues of private.
I know,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
We did take a look at that crosswalk, and we found one. It was a desire to have a crosswalk, but the problem was all the driveways, and then both sides had that curve. And so we want to put pedestrians at risk by putting crosswalks on that curve. So that's why we decided we would not do one.
well, maybe you could closer to where the old library was, get down further away from this curve. I think you should consider it. I mean, I think it's important. It's important to me, so. But thank you. What else do I have? Bathrooms, library, hours. Who controls the lighting? Is it just automatic timers?
It would be on timers.
Okay, and
So we
if
would
somebody
control the
complains,
lights.
you know. All right, Frisbee golf is still good, sidewalk. The traffic study, are we gonna do a traffic study, or is it no?
It's not required for this project.
Okay, I mean, I'm kind of figuring that we had the library there, so we had there wasn't a lot of cars, so, but I mean, 10 pickleball courts, that is a pretty impressive, you know? I love it. I do think it'd be a great asset over there, but I am concerned with all the people coming in from all the other towns. What do we do about that? I want people to get on.
I don't know if you can. I mean, parks are public parks. I suppose it depends on how the use is and whether we, and our, with our board's guidance and approval, would set resident hours and open hours. It'd be something we would have to toss around and make sure legal reviewed it. We know in the use of our parks that we can't disclude non-residents. We look at our pool. We've been challenged with the pool and non-residents, and it has to be open to them. So it would be something we would have to talk about if that became a problem.
I'm just spitballing here, but I mean, if it got to a point where it was crazy, because I think Tom's right. It's gonna get crowded. I mean, couldn't you almost charge for it? Go online and charge, but give residents a better rate like we do with the pool?
It would be tough to charge. I mean, nothing is impossible, but it would mean we would have to then staff it and monitor it.
Well, if you just did it online, where you reserve the court, but it's just something
Sure,
down the road, because I got a feeling it's gonna get really crowded.
It should be popular.
But I think that's all. Thank you for your time, and I really do. I hope we can get this together. By the way, when we, if all of this goes, it's going in front of the board, what are you talking about, the first?
We're hoping to issue bid documents sometime in April, and then after we have all the permitting and everything's finally approved, we hope to break ground this summer. The project, with the OSLAG grant, requires the project to be done by March 31st. Because we're starting a little bit late, we may request an extension depending on how the project goes.
March 31st,
2027.
2026.
26, 27.
2020. You said 26.
Oh, I'm sorry, 26.
Got it.
We have another project that's 27. This one's.
Good, I'm thinking that's a long time.
It would be easy then.
Thanks, Ray.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, a couple of things that I have. I think the two major issues are flooding of the existing park and what's going to be the park hours because of the pickleball. Is the baseball field and the soccer field going to be lighted?
No, I shouldn't say the soccer field.
When I say lighted, I mean lighted to the effect that they can be used for after hours.
No.
Not
The soccer
security.
field currently has 3 lights. Those lights will stay there, so St. Mike's uses those lights for football practices.
So no, those are like security lights, and so it's,
No, those are actually field lights. St. Mike's is the only one that uses them. There's insufficient lighting to actually do regular recreational play for soccer like we do in our other, like Centennial Park. So only
Okay.
St. Mike's uses
so that's like an in-between. It's more than security, but less than optimal for play.
Yes.
Okay. With regard to the flooding, I'm a little bit troubled by your answer that, well, we're not doing that much to solve the flooding in the existing park because this is just a project to renovate the north part of it. And I think that since you're spending the money a lot of money to do this, you ought to solve the flooding problem once and for all. Now, I guess we can rely on water reclamation district standards to say that if you meet those standards, you will solve the existing flooding problem. Is that a safe assumption?
Yes, the current detention is sized per MWD WMO, Water Management Ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will the pipe underneath the tracks be large enough to address the issue in Dugan Park?
So there will be some attenuation. That's what the detention pond is for. We're gonna hold back some water before we just dump it straight in. Otherwise, we just put it straight into the pond west of the tracks. So the pipe is currently sized and the detention is sized to hold off enough water in a specific storm event to hold it into the detention pond and then release it in a slower manner.
Okay. I'm confident that this won't cause any flooding on the west side because 20 years ago, your company was involved in a major project to eliminate flooding in Brown Park, which involved constructing a huge sewer down Westwood Drive and Rainey's Lane and the water ends up in the forest preserve north of 143rd Street, correct?
I'm not aware of that. I can't speak.
I am, because I was on the board, and your company got a lot of money to do that project. So if you can get it into Brown, it's going to eventually end up north of 143rd Street in the forest preserve.
We have outlined it so that we are not negatively impacting the
Okay.
plant site.
Okay, I'm satisfied with that.
Outlined in the stormwater report.
So I think the major question, Mr. Piattoni, or the major issue for the future, if we can address it now, we'll solve a problem, is not having things going on too late, mainly pickleball, that will cause the neighborhood consternation. So what I'm going to suggest is that we adopt the recommended motion here, which would allow the project to move forward without an issue. But we have an additional recommendation to the village board, strictly a recommendation that the hours not extend beyond 8 PM for pickleball to satisfy the problems that are going to crop up in the neighborhood if they do extend beyond that time. So with that in mind,
Can you reconsider 9? Can you just reconsider that?
I think he initially said you're going to open at 9 and close at 8, right?
We were thinking 8 to 9, but we do want to bring it in front of our rec advisory board to get their input as well.
8 to 9, okay.
Be flexible on 8 or 9.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to make the motion, I'm going to word it as a recommendation. Now, the board will also consider whatever input you get from the rec advisory board, and they'll do what they want to do. But I want to get it before them so that it's, on their mind.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you to add something to that motion? Maybe reconsider a couple of extra stalls in that bathroom? Is that pushing?
Sure.
I think two stalls is silly for 100 people playing pickleball.
Sure, we'll blow Ray's budget up. Okay. All right, so at this point, I would entertain a motion to consider the recommended motion by the staff.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Zamparelli.
I make a motion as amended. It's the addition you wanted to add.
No, just make this motion.
Okay, all right, regarding case number 2025-0011, also known as the Dugan Park redevelopment project, I moved to approve the staff recommendation action as presented in the staff report to the Plan Commission for this case.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Commissioner Zamparelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Paul?
Aye.
Commissioner Zadar? Commissioner Nugent?
Aye.
Okay. Generally, chairman doesn't make a motion, but I'll make a motion. I move that with regard to case number 2025-0011, also known as Dugan Park redevelopment project, I move to recommend to the village board that with regard to this project, they consider imposing hours for Dugan Park of 8 AM to 9 PM, and that they consider adding additional stalls to the proposed washrooms.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. I vote aye. Commissioner Zamparelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Nugent?
Aye.
Commissioner Paul?
Aye.
Commissioner Zatar? Okay. All right. Motion to close public hearing is in order.
Second.
Who moves? You move?
Oh, I move, we close the public.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Commissioner Zamparelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Paul?
Aye.
Commissioner Zatar? Commissioner Nugent?
Aye.
I vote aye. Okay, that's it. Other business, we have a memo regarding new petitions in the future that don't require any action. Are there any questions regarding that? No, then a motion to,
Any non-scheduled citizens?
anybody else, would there anybody else like to say anything to the commission? Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn would be in order. Who moved? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're adjourned at 8:50.